Second Chances of the Soul by 55artix. Chapter 12. R.I.P. Ben Parker. So, tell me again, why have you still not proposed to Pepper? I was under the impression that you all had the ring ready. I never took you as the kind of guy to chicken out at the last second. Actually, I take that back. You totally do chicken out at the last second when you have a good thing going, Natasha said, sounding unapologetic. Correction, that sounds exactly like the old me. The new me is much better at dealing with emotional shit. I see what I want and I go for it. Anyway, I was gonna propose to her, but I've just got a lot on my mind recently, Tony said. I'm worried about Peter. He's been avoiding my calls for the past couple of weeks, and he hasn't been down to the lab since he got sick. He was supposed to come down here the other day, but blatantly lied to my face to get out of it. Harley said Peter hasn't been very receptive on his line either. It's just so unlike him. All kids go through a rebellious phase. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I know Cooper gave Clint and Laura a ton of headaches when he reached his preteen years. And if Peter just continues the cycle, just go over there and see him for yourself. If he's going through something, he's probably too in his head to realise that he needs to reach out for help, Natasha said thoughtfully. Wow, Mama Widow. I never thought that you would have any maternal instincts until when I met you working as a double agent, Tony said jokingly. Who knew that the stone-cold assassin had a heart? God knows that Peter loves you. You're just such a natural to him. Maybe you should talk to... Sir, Peter Parker has just called for an ambulance, Jarvis informed Tony. What? Why? What happened? Is he okay? Tony asked anxiously. Mr. Parker appears to be in good physical health. Unfortunately, his uncle was shot by a street mugger. The MET should be arriving soon. However, I have just conducted a full-body scan, and Ben Parker appears to be deceased, Jarvis reported. What? Tony shouted in disbelief. But this isn't supposed to happen until 2015. How is this happening? Oh God, Peter, I can't believe this. I've completely fucked everything up. And now I've killed Ben Parker. I was supposed to save everyone. This was their second chance to make everything right. I'm so sorry, Peter. Oh my God. Tony collapsed onto the floor, his anxiety taking over. Natasha rubbed a soothing hand on his back, but Tony could see that she too was shaken. Tony couldn't stop the tears from streaming down his face. If they couldn't save this one person, how could they know they weren't just making everything worse instead of better? If anything, it seemed like everything that was going horribly wrong, considering that Harley's family had suffered fatal consequences as a result of their time travel changes. And poor Peter. He had been too young to lose Ben the first time he died, but right now, he was 5 years younger than the last time. Who knew how he'd deal with the trauma at an even younger age? God, I'm a failure. I'm a piece of shit. This is all my fault. If I'd just gone over to the Parkers and checked on them, then maybe this wouldn't have happened. Tony sobbed, letting his emotions to completely take over. Tony, you said it yourself. Ben died on a completely different day last time. There was no way that you could have known. There's no way we could have known. The best thing we can do right now is be there for Peter. When you mess with time, it tends to mess back. But at least we have a chance to try and make things better. We have a second chance and extra time with our loved ones, which is more than I ever could have asked for. Yes, this is a shitty thing, but wallowing in self-doubt and pity won't help anyone. Be there for Peter. Listen to what he needs, and if he won't talk to you, then just sit there with him. He's going to need you, Natasha said. You're right. You're right, Tony said, taking a few deep breaths, trying to collect himself. Jarvis, what hospital has Ben been taken to? St. Joseph's, sir, Jarvis informed him. Tony nodded to Natasha before letting his nanotech suit encase his body. He then swiftly picked up Natasha and flew off. Line break. Tony and Natasha rushed into the hospital as soon as they arrived. We're here for Ben Parker, Ben informed the lady at the front desk. You can head to the waiting room on the 3rd floor. Some of his family members have already arrived. As soon as Tony and Natasha stepped off the elevator, they spotted a very distraught May attempting to comfort her traumatized nephew. I'm so sorry, Aunt May. This is all my fault. Peter sobbed into his aunt's shoulder. May didn't appear to be faring much better, as she just hugged Peter tighter and sobbed into his kid. "Hey, kid," Tony said softly. "Jarvis told me what happened. I'm so sorry, kid." Peter slowly let go of his aunt and looked at Tony, eyes full of nothing but remorse. "I'm so sorry, Tony. This is all my fault. I shouldn't have worried all of you, and I'm sorry for ignoring you. Uncle Ben was right. I was being irresponsible. I swear I didn't mean for any of this to happen. And now he's dead, and it's all my fault," Peter choked out before collapsing onto the floor. "Shh," Tony whispered soothingly, rubbing Peter's back. "You'll be alright, kid. This was no one's fault but the dick who shot your uncle. It's alright, Pete. I got you." Tony leaned down and sat on the ground beside Peter. Tony had never considered himself an expert on comforting others, but consoling Peter came naturally to him. Tony wrapped his arms around his kid and just let the kid get his emotions out. Tony noticed that Natasha had sat next to May on the hospital bench. The two women embraced, and Natasha rubbed a soothing hand on May's back. Tony had almost forgotten that the two of them had met quite a few times, and that Natasha had experienced more loss than most people had in their lifetime, which made her capable of providing comfort to the other woman. Line break. May knew that she looked dishevelled, with her uncombed hair, blotchy red face, but at that current moment, she couldn't bring herself to care. She'd always been a fashionable woman. Her friends often said she made her Walmart wardrobe look more expensive than the outfits worn during Fashion Week on the runway. Yet, she currently sat at her kitchen table in her dead husband's old football jersey, the one she used to try and goad him into throwing away on a daily basis, just feeling rather apathetic about everything. She knew that she needed to be strong for her 10-year-old nephew, who was currently even more broken than she was. Peter was only 10 years old, and he had not only experienced the death of his uncle, but he believed it to be his fault. Despite May's constant reassurances that what happened to Ben was in no way his fault, Peter seemed no closer to believing it. Peter was having trouble making eye contact with May lately, and she had a feeling that his guilt over Ben's death was the culprit behind this uncharacteristic behaviour. May looked through the stack of papers piled on the kitchen table with a feeling of trepidation. She knew that she needed to start getting paid for the bills. Nor she, nor Ben had taken out a life insurance policy because of their young age. It just seemed unlikely that it would be necessary, as it had never crossed their minds. Even with an unknown amount of cash that she had found hidden in a storage closet, she deduced that Ben must have hidden it there a while ago for a rainy day and forgotten about it. She could barely cover the funeral costs. There was also the impending eviction threat, if she could not scavenge enough money to pay rent. Their landlord was not an empathetic man, and she knew if she didn't come up with a solution soon, she and her nephew would be out on the street. Knock, knock, knock. There was someone at the door. While May knew that she should appreciate all the support from her friends, and she did appreciate everyone who brought food, because out of the two of them, Ben was definitely the cook of the family, she wasn't sure if she could handle listening to another one of her friends talk about trivial things. Everyone walked on eggshells around her, and they were talking about how they believed what they believed to be safe, such as their latest gossip, the newest PTA project that everyone believed to be a complete boondoggle. May understood that they were just trying to cheer her up, but it was hard to listen to life go on with Ben's life cut short. It took all her self-control that she had to not get up and scream, "I don't give a fuck if Cindy kissed Molly's husband, George. I just want my husband back." May opened the door to find none other than Tony Stark standing on the other side. "Hey, Tony," May greeted him. "Hey, May," Tony replied. "Can I come in?" At May's nod, Tony stepped in. "Where's Underoos? How is he?" Tony asked. "He's been over at Ned's house all day. He thinks Ben's death is his fault, and he's been taking it really hard. I think Ned's helping him take his mind off of all this. At least." As you can see, I'm absolutely peachy. With funeral costs and this month's rent, we're stretched really thin. And I'm just trying to make this all work, May said anxiously. I've never been great at coping in times of crisis. That was always Ben's forte. Oh, speaking of funeral costs, I came here to discuss exactly that. I think if you call the funeral home, you'll find that an anonymous person made a rather munificent donation, and that all costs are paid for, Tony said, looking remorseful. May had noticed that the man had taken Ben's death extremely personally, and acted as if he was responsible. Perhaps being a superhero created a guilt complex. Oh, Tony, you shouldn't have. Honestly, we don't need your charity. I'm grateful, I really am, but Peter and I will be able to figure something out, May said in embarrassment. Hey. I said it was an anonymous donor, for a reason. I never said it was me. Besides, even if it was me, you're forgetting that I'm a billionaire. I have more money than I could ever spend anyway. And you guys are family to me at this point. It would be absurd not to help out, Tony replied. Plus, it's already been done. So there's nothing you can really do at this point, Tony pointed out. May got up and embraced Tony, sobbing. Thank you so much, Tony. I swear I'll pay you back soon. It really does mean a lot to me. Ben and I have really been struggling with money lately. And this was just the last straw that broke the camel's back. It's been so hard just getting up every day in this apartment. Every time I look around, I just see Ben. The couch has a coffee stain in the corner, because Ben never listened to me when I told him he wasn't allowed to drink anything but water on the couch. The kitchen table just feels so empty, because his seat shouldn't be vacant. Hell, I've been sleeping on the couch lately because it feels so wrong to be sleeping in our bed without him. Sometimes I reach out to the side in the middle of the night, expecting him to take my hand, but there's no one there. There's just so many memories in this house, but it's overwhelming. I think that's why Peter's been staying over at Ned's. It's just too painful for him to look at this place and be reminded of Ben. May sobbed into her hands. I'm sorry I'm rambling. You're probably busy. Thank you, Tony. I really appreciate this. I'll tell Peter to call you when he gets back. Actually, ever since I handed my company over to Pepper, my schedule has been wide open. Of course, there are still some things I still have to do for Stark Industries. But I'm not nearly as busy as my girlfriend. And if you want a different place to stay, at least for a little bit, Avengers Tower has plenty of extra living spaces. I could get you and Peter a floor, temporary or permanent, whatever you want. You guys are just as much family as the Avengers. It's only fair that you have rooms there. I know what it's like to be bombarded with old memories every time you look at a place, Tony said. May recalled the time Tony mentioned that he never returned to his childhood home after his parents had passed away. Perhaps he was thinking about that. I could still pay the rent on this place, so you can return when you guys are ready, Tony offered. Oh, Tony, that's very sweet of you, but you're already doing so much. We couldn't possibly accept that. Peter and I can always move somewhere cheaper. It wouldn't feel right to just let you pay for everything. Oh, trust me, you'd be doing me a favour. I have way too many open rooms that are just going to waste. Clint's going to insist on opening a casino on one of the floors if I don't fill them up soon. Not to mention, I don't really want the building open to anyone. So I only want people I trust to have access to it. You guys are perfect. Plus, Harley already thinks of Peter as a brother, and he'd love to have Peter in the tower. And you can really stop worrying about money. Like I mentioned, I'm a billionaire. I have a plethora of disposable income, Tony said, trying to persuade May. What if I let you pay rent? It'll be really casual. You can pay what you want when you want. When you can. That work? Tony asked. After half an hour of trying to convince May, she finally relented. She agreed to talk to Peter about moving into the tower, and see what he thought. Since she made it very clear she would definitely not let Tony continue to pay rent on their old apartment if they moved into the tower, it would be long-term. Towards the end of the conversation, May actually found she was slightly excited at the prospect of moving out of the apartment, as she had never really liked him much in the first place. She always thought the layout was rather off-putting. Peter entered the church where Ben's funeral was being held with a feeling of consternation. He hated attention, and he wasn't sure if he could face all the grieving people, knowing that Ben's death was his fault. He gripped his aunt's hand tightly until May flinched with pain. Oops. He really needed to start from managing his super strength. He wouldn't be able to live with himself if he hurt someone else because he couldn't control his powers. When May had asked Peter if he'd be willing to move out of their apartment, he had jumped on the offer. Being around so many memories of Ben had been driving him crazy, and sometimes, if he felt he could he'd never be able to move on. At first he'd felt a scintilla of guilt after being so willing to leave his childhood home behind. But when May said that she wanted to leave as well, Peter had felt a bit better. Several people talked about their fond memories of Ben during the service. His work friends described how he lit up every room he walked in and was a ray of sunshine. Some of his college friends regaled him with some of the tales of their more wild adventures. Peter found himself tuning out after a while. Everyone's speeches seemed so rehearsed and cliché. Something about it all felt a bit disingenuous. Perhaps he was being a bit hypercritical. Peter had been too young to remember what his parents' funerals had been like. But after sitting through Ben, he decided he really extricated funerals. Peter and May had elected not to speak, as they were in both such fragile emotional states that they thought it better to do their eulogies in private the night before. And after listening to far too many people say the same thing over and over again, Peter was glad that May had been more genuine private ceremony the night before. Peter walked into the room after the service reception. To Peter's surprise, the entirety of the Avengers team was gathered in the front corner of the room, along with Happy Hogan, Pepper Potts, Harley Keener, and a brunette lady that Peter recognised as Thor's girlfriend, Jane Foster. What are the Avengers, the Earth's mightiest heroes, doing here? Tony seemed to notice Peter right away and waved him over. Hey, kid, he said as he embraced Peter. I know it's been a super overwhelming day for you, but I just want you to know that we're all here for you. We're all family. The rest of the group nodded in agreement. Harley and Pepper joined in on the embrace. You were there for me when my mum and sister died, and you can come to me with anything. You're my brother, Peter. We're hero buddies, Harley said, which comforted Peter. The rest of the group took turns embracing Peter. It was a bit surprising to him, as he didn't quite understand why the Avengers cared about him so much. But he was touched nonetheless. Young Stark's son, I know what it is like to lose someone you hold very dear. I apologize for this trying situation. Just know that if this culprit behind this is ever found, I will show no mercy, Loki declared. Loki ruffled Peter's hair in an uncharacteristic show of affection. Peter smiled at the Norse god in appreciation and blushed, as he was rather embarrassed by all this attention. Hey, we haven't formally met. I'm Jane. Jane Foster introduced herself. I'm really sorry for your loss. Thor tells me you're really brave. Just remember that being brave doesn't mean you can't ask for help. I've got a guest room in the tower now, so we'll probably be seeing a lot more of each other. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. Thor and I have been researching some wormholes that have been popping up around the world, and our next stop is England. When we get back, I hope we'll be able to spend more time together. Thanks, Miss Foster, Peter replied politely. Call me Jane, she replied kindly. I know Thor and Loki see you as family, so there's no reason we can't be the same. Though Peter knew that there would always be a hole in his heart with Ben gone, after hearing what his new family had to say, for the first time in days, he smiled. Line break. Something's off about Peter, as Tony stated. Natasha was accompanying Tony in the lab as they planned their, what had been dubbed by Tony, Time Heist 2.0. Much to Natasha's dismay, She thought it was rather silly. I know what you mean, Natasha said thoughtfully. He's definitely hiding something. The other day he was definitely doing something in the training room when I walked in. He lied to me and said he was just wanted a quiet place to do homework. But the kid's a terrible liar. He didn't have his textbooks or paper and pencil, and he was out of breath. He said he just wanted to admire Cap's equipment as a fanboy, which, under most circumstances, I could believe, but he looked shifty as fuck. I know death can do different things to different people. When my parents died, I spent the next 5 months off my life drunk. But Peter's been back to his normal self for the most part. But something's just been off. I can't place my finger on it. Jarvis, do you know what's going on with Peter? Tony asked. Define what you mean what's going on with Peter means. There has been some physical changes that have been occurring with Mr. Parker, but he has sworn me to secrecy. Jarvis replied, What do you mean, sworn you to secrecy? You're my AI, and I have all the override codes. Tony exclaimed. I understand, and yes, sir, you do have the authority to the information. I was merely informing you of Mr. Parker's request. Jarvis replied, clearly unfazed by Tony's attitude. How long have you known about this secret of Peter's? Tony asked. A month, Jarvis replied. And why am I just hearing about this now? Also, what is this physical change of Peter's? Tony demanded. I have not informed you until now, because you have never specified the information you wanted from Mr. Parker. If you had asked about any physical changes, Mr. Parker, I would have informed you long ago. My code only requires me to inform you if you specifically ask for the information. And due to Mr. Parker's request for secrecy, I did not inform you immediately. Jarvis said matter-of-factly. But when you and Mr. Parker visited Oscorp Industries, Mr. Parker wandered into a secret laboratory. In said laboratory, he was exposed to a radioactive spider. From my physical scans of Mr. Parker, his DNA has been altered, which led to some physical changes, including increased strength, in an addition of a natural adhesive on the skin that allows him to stick to surfaces and a heightened senses. What the fuck? Oscorp Industries? Radioactive spider. Oh my fucking god, Peter's got spider powers at age 10! How is this happening? I need to go talk to that kid before he decides to become the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man like I know he's probably planning to do. I knew he was hiding something from me. I'm going to have to talk with him, Peter exclaimed. Natasha rubbed Tony's arm soothingly. Maybe I should do it. If you go in there all hot-headed with an accusatory tone, he's just going to get upset. Natasha entered the kitchen, where Peter was currently eating what looked like an entire box of Pop-Tarts. You know, I'm pretty sure there's more sugar in those than what you need in an entire day. Oh, hi, Nat. I'm pretty sure there's no daily requirement for sugar, just an upper limit. We learned that in health class, Peter said, conversationally. Natasha picked up the coffee pitcher and poured herself some into her mug. She intentionally placed the mug on the edge of the table, on the opposite side of where Peter was sitting. Before the mug had a chance to even fall a couple of inches off the table, Peter rushed over and caught the mug almost instantaneously. Natasha raised her eyebrows. Nice reflexes, she said suspiciously. And great speed, too. I didn't realize you were so athletic. You sprinted here really fast. Peter laughed nervously. Yeah, I guess I've gotten a little better at running. I was thinking of joining the track team. He replied, undoubtedly lying. Natasha walked over to the knife holder, and she picked up a rather large knife. She swiftly threw the knife Peter's way, being careful to aim an inch away from his face, just in case somehow Jarvis was wrong about the whole superpowers thing. Peter gasped, clearly shocked, before quickly reacting and catching the knife easily. What the heck? You could have killed me! Peter exclaimed. But I didn't, Natasha pointed out. Well, if I didn't have superpowers, it definitely would have killed me. Whoops. Did I just say that out loud? Peter said nervously, most likely realizing that his secret was out. Yep. Sorry, kid, but Tony's been worried sick about you. And I guess it never occurred to him that you somehow find a way to get your powers early. That wasn't until Jarvis ratted you out 10 minutes ago. Also, I was very careful to make sure the knife was far away enough from your head that it would have gone straight past you had you not had spider powers. Natasha replied. What does she mean by getting my powers early? It's Nat. She always acted like she knows everything. Heck, she does know everything. Sometimes it's like she has the power to tell the future. Perhaps my future theory is correct. Or maybe it's just a spy thing. But also, I'm so screwed. They're onto me. Just act natural. Yeah, that'll do it. Peter murmured to himself, obviously unaware that Natasha had heard everything. After all, as a spy, her senses had to be quite good. What if I freaked out and moved towards the knife if I didn't have powers? Peter asked. Well, I already knew about the powers because of Jarvis. You gave yourself away during that coffee test earlier. And if you hadn't really had powers, I have fast reflexes too. There's no way you would have gotten hurt, Natasha replied. Really? Because, no offense, like, you're totally awesome and everything, and you're totally and completely badass. Like, if I didn't know you, I'd be terrified. I mean, I do know you and I'm still terrified. But aren't you a regular human? Like, no superpowers or anything? Peter asked curiously. Natasha just shrugged cryptically in response. There is a lot you don't know about me, Pete. Let's head down to the training room. You need to get in the ring with me. We're training. You could learn a thing or two. Unchecked and untrained powers can become dangerous. Besides, knowing you, you're probably just like your dad and about to become some kind of reckless hero. The least I can do is make sure that you're prepared. Also, you need to tell your aunt. I'll give you 2 days. If you don't tell her, I will. Do we have a deal? Do I have a choice? Peter asked. Natasha gave him a look that said, What do you think? No, Natasha would never let Peter walk around with uncontrolled powers. Okay, fine. I'll tell Aunt May. But she'll never let me be a hero. Especially after what happened with Uncle Ben. But, training with the Black Widow is really cool. Peter rambled on. Good choice, kid. Let's get going, Natasha ordered. Just a warning, I don't go easy in the ring. Just ask Abby. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that. Whew, again, another emotional one. Yeesh. I like how Natasha handled that though. That was good. Poor May, poor Peter. And I love that even Jane is willing to be family to Peter. That is really sweet. And I love how all of them are just like, we're protecting this kid if it kills us. And that is just, wow. After No Way Home, which I have finally been able to get around to knowing all about it, it's nice to see the Avengers all rally around Peter. Oh boy. Anyway, remember, have a nice day. You guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe. Hit the bell. And I'll see you soon, my guys, gals and non-binary pals. Bye.